up, I'm getting tired of sleeping. Think I've had enough. I've been gone but haven't done much healing. It's pretty clear to me, kinda strange how I can take a beat.
Well, hello venters. I hope you guys are walking each and every day with me. Or if you're not walking with me, I hope you're still walking, because walking is so important and it's so much fun. And I wish I could force the world to walk. Unfortunately, I don't have that power. Today I want to tell you about a YouTuber. The name of her channel is Annie's Shenanigans. Guys, Annie had a friend that can best be labeled as a taker.
Takers are people that come into your life and ask you for help, or say things to make you offer them help.
Annie's friend gets a divorce, kind of buys houses, gets alimony, has retirement, has a 401k, has a pension, yet with all these monies, some way, somehow, she's completely broke.
So this person, who had been a longtime friend of mine, came to me with a big ask. She was in deep financial trouble, she told me, and she needed a place to stay.
So she reaches out to her buddy Annie and she says, hey, is there any way I can come stay with you? So she comes down and she moves in with her buddy Annie. Annie, during this time, is quitting her work that she's been at for a long time. And as foolish as this sounds, she decides to cash in her 401k.
Because Fidelity told me that I had to either cash it out or roll it over, and I didn't have a job, so I couldn't roll it over. Or they would start assessing a bunch of fees. And I couldn't really do anything with it. I couldn't contribute to it. It was a mess. So anyway, I cashed it out to pay off my house.
But instead of charging her friend rent, she allowed her friend to live there rent-free. Every other day, the friend would go out, and some way, somehow, she would come home with bags full of things that she had purchased from, the mall and such. And even though Annie wasn't charging her any rent, guys, this lady still, some way, somehow, is broke.
Within about a month or so, she came to me crying, and she needed to pay her basic bills, and she needed help. And I had offered to help her before. I had told her that I was on a budget and all these things. And anyway, she knew that I was doing that. So anyway, I said, okay, I will help you, but you're going to have to lay out all your finances to me, and I'll set you up on a budget.
Well, after time goes on, Annie slowly starts to realize that her friend has a gambling problem. I'm telling you, it's crazy how much people will spend gambling, and they do it so regularly. So anyway, this woman was earning $4,500 from her alimony, her retirement, her 401k, the whole 9 yards. And for some reason, Annie doesn't put her foot down and say, no, you're going to pay me $1,000 a month. You're going to pay me $1,500 a month, right? She lets her live there for free. And the reason it irritates me is because I think we've all had friends that have let people take advantage of them through the years. Sometimes we ourselves are that person that gets taken advantage of. But this story gets worse.
Meanwhile, she had a car accident, and her car was totaled. So she had to get a brand new car. It was not an option to get a used car. That was her mindset. She supposedly had an accident at some thrift store. Now, this is a thrift store, Habitat for Humanity thrift store. They're not some big company that's making lots of money. It's a thrift store. So she went to the eye doctor because this thing fell and hit her in the face, and all these things happened. She sued them. All right. And she got, I think it was about $30,000. Somewhere along in there, she went on a cruise with a friend. The friend, supposedly, paid for the cruise. And the first night of the cruise, she fell in the cabin and broke her shoulder. Well, now she's desperate. She don't have the money to get back because the friend apparently told her they had insurance, but apparently they didn't. I don't know if that was true or not. So she calls me begging for money. Got to get a flight. You know, I pay for a flight and to get her back so she can go to the doctor and do all these things, right?
Annie has paid off her house by cashing out her 401k. Her friend who moves in makes everything and decorates everything in her way. So pretty soon, Annie felt pressured to even live in her own home. And so Annie ends up picking up and moving to Florida and allowing her friend to still stay rent-free in the house. After a while, she starts to realize that her friend, even though she's broke, goes on cruises, does all these things. But when she goes on a cruise, she falls and hurts her shoulder. She ends up suing the cruise line. She does this and that and the other. She ends up suing other people. Pretty soon, Annie realizes my ex-friend, or my friend that's living in my house rent-free, right, has a gambling problem, is suing people left and right, and she starts to get paranoid that her friend is going to fall, hurt herself in the house, and then sue her.
And so she calls me after about a month that I'm here. And she says, she's telling me things that's going on, whatever. She's always got some kind of drama going on, telling me about her visits to the doctor, about her eye, and some other things. And then she mentions that she fell in my house. And I can see how that happened because she has so much crap piled up everywhere. She probably tripped over something. But I got to thinking about it. And I realized that she was running scams on people.
Now, I don't know if someone falls in your house while they're living there rent-free, if they can sue you, but this country that we live in, yeah, that sounds about right. She probably is right. Now, this is all supposed to boil down to no good deed goes unpunished, and it's just not worth it. But anyway, this story keeps going on, and it's kind of fascinating, and I want you guys to watch it when you're done walking with me. But anyway, this is a textbook story of how really nice people will end up just going through hell for others that don't feel the same way about them. Annie is now at the age where she should be ready to retire, but she has absolutely little to none saved up. Meanwhile, she had this house that was paid off. Her friend ends up calling her, hinting around that she wants to sell the house. Now, mind you, this is Annie's house.
So after several times of talking to her, I realized that she was hinting around about me selling my house. And although she kept saying she didn't want me to sell my house, she didn't want to move. I don't know what was going on in her head. It was like one day it was one way and the next day it was another way. So I don't know. Anyway, so I finally said, okay, I think I want to sell my house. And then it was like, well, why do you want to sell your house? And I'm like, well, you've been telling me all this time, you know, I'll make all this money on it and blah, 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 right? So anyway, I agreed to let her do the whole thing. I said, okay, you can sell the house. You can take all the pictures. You can vet all the people. I'll pay you a fee, a commission, whatever you want to call it. And that sent her off to the races because it was money. That's what it was for her, money. So I sold my house. I found the buyer, but she still wanted the commission, so I gave her the commission.
It gets worse. Annie ends up selling the house, but not because anything the lady did. She just told her to clean up the house. I'll give you the commission. I even found a buyer. So Annie is literally doing everything in her life correct, and this lady is just holding her down. So she ends up paying the lady a commission that she didn't earn to live in a house that she didn't even take care of, because the one thing that Annie asked her was keep the house clean so that when I sell it, I can give you the commission. She takes the commission, she goes about her own merry way, and then when Annie comes down to finalize the deal on the selling of the house, lo and behold, she ends up finding out that the friend didn't even clean the house up. Again, just textbook case of somebody taking advantage. Now, Jesse, it took you 7 minutes to spit that stupid story out. Why did you do it? Guys, the reason I did was because a couple months back, I told you guys that I had reconnected with one of my old friends. He's a fellow YouTuber, right? I go up to him on his channel and I say, hey, I'm a fan of your channel. I've been watching for a couple years, because I have. And I slowly end up kind of watching one of these live videos that he's doing. And I give him a $10 donation. The very next thing he does was he ends up writing me, and this was like 2 or 3 days later, and he ends up writing me asking me to send him hundreds of dollars because he needs a loan. Now keep in mind, I haven't talked to him in years, and the last time I did talk to him, the reason we stopped talking is because he was always selfish. He was always me, and then if you did something special, it was who gives a shit about your something special. Let's get back to me. We've all had friends like this. So instead of saying no or yes, I just ignored his question, right? He sent it to me in the form of a text. By the way, when we were younger, if I needed to borrow something from him, he always had no problem saying no. And if I ever helped him out, it was like no big deal, right? Like, hey, thanks. Maybe next time I'll help you out. And that next time never came. All the help was one-sided. We've all had people like this in our lives. God, I'm really stumbling over my words. It's the heat. It is so hot, you just can't imagine how uncomfortable it is out here. Anyway, make a long story short, the reason you can tell takers a mile away is because they don't realize how awful their taking can be. Annie let this woman take over her house, push her out, pay all of her bills, right? Annie got nothing out of the deal but a big pain in the ass. In other words, no good deed goes unpunished. With my buddy, I totally ignore him. A couple months go by. I let him know, hey, I was on Facebook and somebody reached out to me asking about you, right? And instead of saying, wow, who was that? He goes, that's interesting. You know what else is interesting? How come when I ask you for money, you don't respond back to me? Which is about as awkward as it gets. So I go silent again, right? Because it's not worth it to me to argue. If somebody doesn't know what the silent treatment means after they're asking you for money, that's on them. If you ask for money and I give you the silent treatment, what do you think that means? Because when I ask people for stuff and they give me the silent treatment, I know that means go to hell. Go to hell. So anyway, a couple months later roll by. This was just a couple weeks back. All of a sudden I get another text. Now instead of needing $200 or $300 like he did before, all of a sudden he's asking if I can lend him $1,500 or $1,600. It really leads me to believe that there's a lot of people in this country that when you talk to them, you might think, oh, this person's totally normal. But in reality, a lot of people have mental freaking illness. Here's the problem with giving anybody almost anything. Let's say I give my buddy $1,500, $1,600. The way it goes is you give me the $1,600 and then next week when I get paid, I'll give it back to you, right? We've all heard that request before. The only problem is, imagine next week when that paycheck comes in, what are the odds they're going to give you that money that they owe you? All it's going to do is put them back in the hole again. Are they going to give you your $1,500 back and then ask you for it the very next day? Because that's the only way that math works. And as you get closer and closer to the next rent payment, pretty soon you realize you're never going to get your money back. So it's almost like right when friends ask you for money, it's almost like they're telling you, I want to steal from you, and then exit out of your life. Because when they do owe you money, all of a sudden, you give them a phone call, they're not going to answer. You give them a text, it never gets read. And it's just really interesting. And it doesn't matter if your best buddy is a YouTuber or what. Some people just don't realize how awful their red flags are. And that was my story I wanted to share with you guys. Something does happen to us as we get older. I used to be a hell of a storyteller. Heck, I even feel like a year ago I was a better storyteller than I am now. And I think some of it has to do with the heat. But I think as we get older, I think just like an older computer, we get slower. We run out of bandwidth. There's so many things that are heading our way. And that's ultimately why I like to walk. If I'm going to have trouble putting my thoughts together as I get older, I want it to happen as slow as possible. And based on all the research and videos and books I've read, it looks like walking, drinking water, and avoiding that white stuff called sugar, it sounds to me like that's the best way to keep going a long time. This story is about givers and takers, and I don't know what's worse. Because if a person has a gambling problem, are you helping them at all by giving them money? No, you're actually hurting them. So it's like it's bad on both sides. What you would like is if you're going through a troubling time in your life, you would like for somebody to maybe investigate, make sure that you're not crazy and off your rocker, make sure that you're not on drugs. And if you pass their test, maybe they give you a loan that you can slowly but surely pay off, right? Parents do this with their kids all the time. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to just give somebody money and then just appreciate that they give you these words back that sound so good. You know, oh, Patty, I'm going to pay you back $500 a week for the rest of the year. No, they're not, Patty. If they had that type of money lying around on top of their bills, they would have never asked you for anything. What happens is when it's our friends, they make us feel guilty. And then you have to ask yourself the question, are they really my friends? Takers go through life, and it's not like they take 10 or 20 bucks from people. They take people for tens of thousands of dollars. So now this lady, this Annie from Annie's Shenanigans, now she doesn't have very much money to retire on. And when you hear her story, all you keep thinking is, why did you let her do that? Okay, why did you let her do this then? Okay, then why did you let her do that? And it's just like one stupid thing after another. It's got to be the most frustrating video I've ever seen. But it's only frustrating because Annie was being a good friend. The problem is, if you're a good friend, a bad friend is going to take advantage. And if you're one of these friends that you're always there to ask your buddies for money and shit, but yet whenever it comes down to, you know, you're out at a restaurant and you never pay the bill, right? It's like, wouldn't it be cool if people that were, you know, takers actually gave every now and again? That's what's so irritating. The people that take in life, you end up finding out that they're making $4,500 a month and they should be taking care of themselves. Half the time, the people that give don't even make as much money as the people that take. But the people that take, it's like in their blood to just be a leech. Very irritating. A Home for Dolls 166 says, I once read or heard that givers should know their limit because takers don't have one. That's where that expression, you give them an inch, they take a mile, comes from. As I get older, I start to realize it's not blue versus red. That's a uniparty. That's a uniparty against us all. I feel that in my heart. But I also start to realize that maybe there is no such thing as a real, genuine friend. Because people only want to be friends when they get something out of the equation. And that's what's so frustrating. If you're a giver and you're a really good person, most of your friends are probably going to be takers. Now, are you going to get lucky and find a best buddy that's just like you? I hope so. But only you know. I just know that there's so many takers out there. Oh, it's just very irritating. Dave B. 2280 says, there are takers, but there are also enablers. Stop the enabling and the takers will move on to someone else. And see, that's where the givers are actually selfish, Dave. They feel like if they don't give to their friend is going to move on, and that's going to be the end of the friendship. What's hard to tell us human beings, because we're so dumb, is that that's not a real friend. You would almost rather have no friends than friends like that. And the crazy thing is those people that are mooches, they know this deep down, but they don't care. Their life is just about what they can take from people. Michelle Jennings says, it has been my experience that people who say they are in financial trouble oftentimes have more money than the people that bail them out do. In my experience, Michelle, I've noticed the same thing. People that are takers have found that it's a strategy to make them more money at the end of the year. If you can have buddies pay for your lunch and dinner, if you can have people pay for your bills, you're going to end up being successful in life. But it's a real shitty way to get successful. Henrom 36 says, never trust anyone, even people you think are quote unquote friends. Never feel sorry for people who come to you with sob stories. We can be kind without being taken advantage of. One of these days, the good people of this world are going to raise up and give hell to the bad people, and that's going to be a great day. I think the end of the world is not going to be Russia and China versus us. It's literally going to be us, the good people, raising up and just taking the bad people to task. DJ says, I never let anyone stay in my house, not even for an overnight stay. Once people are in the house, getting them to leave might become a challenge. If someone stays a couple nights in your house and then all of a sudden they don't want to leave and you call the cops might just tell you, hey, they get to stay here for a month. You got to legally evict them. So it's like, I think what this person says is true. Even just letting someone stay in the house could end up being like not even worth it. So with that being said, the best way to help the world is to start with the man or woman in the mirror. Make that person the strongest they can be, and maybe someday other people will join us. Have a great walk. I'll see you tomorrow.